What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Justin from Justin Hall Sports. Give me just a few moments here. I just got online. I just want to make sure that everything is okay. And I hope that everyone is having a wonderful weekend. Had some great UFL betting going on. Just wanted to see what's going on. Doing a check here. Looks like we are live. Give me just a moment here so I can post this up. We'll get rolling. I apologize for the silence there. Okay, so now we're live, we're all set. Still handling a few technical things on this end, but we are here, we are live, and what a great gambling weekend it was. Went 3-1 on the weekend again, so that's back-to-back against the spread, 3-1. And then on week one, went 2-2. So overall, 8-4, so way ahead of the mark. And that's great. That's what you want to be when you're gambling. We are up, baby. We are up, and we love to see it. We are live here on a Sunday afternoon. It's gorgeous outside. Summer is right around the corner, so we know that we're going to finish summer. Finish spring with a nice little run here. As we get into warm months, it's going to be Easter next weekend. So everything all set. We got the NFL draft coming up on Thursday in Green Bay. So that'll be good to see who your favorite team is going to get. And the draft's always fun. You can see college highlights and see the trades and see what your team likes and what they're going to do. So you can't go wrong with the NFL draft every year. Every year it's great. Shout out to the UFL for making it in its second season. I see a lot of comments online about spring football in general, and needs to be this, needs to be that, X, Y, and Z, and such. But I'm grateful that it's here. I like the majority of the rules. I do think that they should add a extra point element to it. I'm not a big fan of going for it every single time. The 3-point rule is fine. That's a nice little innovation, but I do think that if you just want to pick an extra point to keep with regular traditional football rules, that's ideally what most people would want. Speaking of that, so with this 8-4 run that I'm on for the season, I do feel that UFL is the most lucrative to bet on because of the rules, because of that specific rule. I don't know if the books have not caught on yet, but there is a sort of tendency to book things with massive knee-jerk reactions and a lack of understanding the scoring structures, right? You're going to see a lot of odd scores. You're not going to see your traditional 14-7, 10-7, 14-10, 21-10, 24-21, blah, 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 blah. Because of the conversion rates, because we don't have an extra point. And if you're an experienced gambler, you'll understand that 3, 4, 6, and 7, those are your magic numbers, right? Those are your magic numbers. And you can get backdoored on those numbers. You can get backdoored in anything, but basically on that alone, you should be able to understand that, just even your basic gambling to understand how that works. So the UFL, however, they just don't do that. They don't have that point. So both games today are an example. They were both 7-point dogs. So in my eyes, it's a touchdown plus a conversion, and the conversions are generally they're 2-point conversions in this league. That seems to be the tendencies to go for 2 all the time from the 5-yard line. And honestly, there's a lot of coaching that goes into that. I mean, if I'm a coach and these are the rules that I got to play by, when it's 6, I'm taking 1 point. Closer play, they're going to be more like, I just want to get the points. as early as possible. Take every point you can get. I think a lot of coaches in the NFL make this mistake about points. And, Dan gamble, like, for example, it pays off for him sometimes. However, sometimes we want to see you go and just have a little bit of being conservative. Or if you're inside and it's 4th and 3, a lot of these teams are playing bad with their coaching, with their aggressiveness, and they're not fully understanding that later in the game, those lack of points on the scoreboard, they bite you, or they do understand, they don't care, and the fans don't care as much because they're like, oh, why don't you go for it, blah, 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 just go for it. It's so easy, you wouldn't need 4 downs to get 10 yards. I mean, if it was simple, then everybody would just, make these decisions, and we'd have lesser qualifications to coach football, is all I'm saying. Make these kinds of decisions, because decision-making with points, it's the one place where I think that coaches need to have somebody that's level-headed and understands situational football and say, hey, we're not going to go for it. We are going to go for it. And when the time's appropriate. So it's more appropriate in the first parts to take your points. So that being said, do a little recap of the games on this weekend, Friday night. It was the only game I lost. I like Birmingham -4 in the hook. I got on the books at 3 in the hook. Again, that number is really nothing. I mean, you can throw a field goal in there, but 3.5, 4.5, I still felt pretty good about it. Arlington has kind of been overvalued. And then here, I thought they were rightly valued. And the game was just kind of a slop fest. Matt Corral had an okay game last week, and I thought, he's going to play this week. I think with a week of practice under his belt and starting, and you could see flashes there. There's also some bad going on there. There is some flashes that went on, and I think as the season goes along, he made plays in the playoff game last year. He's not this completely rotten quarterback, but I think he could start the rest of the year. I do. So Birmingham luckily won the game on a beautiful drive at the end of the game, wide open on the right side of the end zone. Convert. 10-9 just robbed Arlington, who had just been frustrating them the whole game. Absolute frustration across the board. It was just want to rip your eyes out type of frustration going on there. But we did not cover on Friday. It was just a Birmingham home opener. Arlington played sloppy the week before against San Antonio. I'm like, man, I just think they're taking a step up here on the road. They're raising the banner, and it was just, the weather was lousy during the day. You didn't see it on the field, but it was raining all day. That's why there was a lack of fans. People were complaining about, there's not enough fans. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Well, it's a thunderstorm. Nobody wants to sit in it. Nobody sits in a major league game. The only time you see people sitting in lousy weather is for the NFL, and this just isn't that popularity, so you're just not going to see it. So, good game on Friday, though. Didn't cover, but I did like Birmingham, so I felt I'm on the right path with my thinking with these bets. So, had the loss Friday. Saturday's game, we had drawing a blank here. Houston was, going against Memphis. Both those teams were 0-2, right? And the Showboats had showed promise in the first 2 games. They were close, but I felt Houston defensively has just been handling business, and the line was too high. Again, there's too much overreaction from the week before. The smartest thing you can learn as a bettor is to be calm and to think things through. The only major reactions you need to have are if there's an injury, right? Or if there's some major news that breaks, and there wasn't the case here. I think Houston was just ran into some really powerful teams in the first 2 weeks, really, and a lot of people were dogging them on their coaching, but you could see last week that the effort was there. You could see that this wasn't a team that was in disarray. And what did they do? They had a quarterback problem. The second they pulled out their quarterback, they put Nolan in there, and you can just feel the vibes. You can just immediately see that Houston was ready to play football after that. You could see it. They were starting to move down the field. This is a team that I think will probably be grossly undervalued next week because they got that monkey off their back. They won the game. They held off in Memphis. They won a road game too. So I think that's a big time thing to carry over a little bit. You give yourself 24 hours, but we're gonna look at next week's matchups and we're gonna decide. Is this gonna carry over? What's the basis of this team? What's the overreaction to the team they're playing? I don't have the schedule for me, so I don't know who's on the board. But I will say that defensively, Houston, anytime it's going to be over 4 points, I'm going to feel really confident taking them the rest of the season, barring some injury. I mean, Houston was able to move the football with no one in there. And sometimes it's just a quarterback change because quarterbacks in this league are everything, right? We saw it in week 1, Birmingham was a different football team without Alex McGill in there. I mean, he got hurt first play. It was like Aaron Rodgers saying first drive, he gets injured. And he may be out for a couple more weeks. We don't know the extent of the injury. We'll have to look at the injury report later in the week. But overall, really good bounce-back performance by Houston. They were down in the first half, and it just took the quarterback change. Anthony Brown just staggered in 3. Now, as a football team, you see this like with the Ravens in the Flacco days a little bit, where defensively teams are making those plays, but eventually that cup boils over if something doesn't happen, if there's no production. But I think that it was a smart move to change quarterback. And when they did that, kudos to them for making the right coaching calls. 1-point victory. I mean, they handled their business. It was a big win for Houston. I couldn't be happier for them. It was an 18-17 win in Memphis. So then we won our bet. We had Houston plus the points at 5.5. Got them on DraftKings at 6. Let's go. Let's cash those bets. That's what we like to do. We like to cash. We like to win. 8-4 in the spring football season again. That is what we do. That is what we want to do every time we bet. Something to consider is when you're looking, you'll see thousands and thousands of cappers out there giving out free plays, or they'll post obnoxious 10-team parlays or these player prop bets, just whatever the hell it is. It's always out of control. I'm going to bet $5 to win $17,000. Come on, man. You got to be serious about your bet. This is your money. This is your money that you're putting up there, right? So don't be fooled by salesmen online that are just going to flash something without any texture and explanation for it thereafter. Now, every day what I do is I put up my picks. I don't put explanations up front, but afterwards. And then I would also own, why I bet what I did, even if I lost, just like my synopsis on the Stallions game, right? I thought that Birmingham was the right side. I felt they covered the number, had my explanations why. And same thing with Houston, man. I really liked it because everybody was just all over Memphis. Oh, they're going to kick their ass. I don't think so. It's just not that simple. There are teams that have pride, too. When they're down, they have pride, and they want to come back, and they want to do something about what their situations are. They don't want to be in those situations any longer. So let's move on to today's games. We had a doubleheader today. That was great. San Antonio at Michigan. Again, both teams today were 7-point dogs. I felt San Antonio they were just kind of putting around. But again, when you're 0-2, you're desperate. You're in this league, you've got 10 games. So you've really got to start getting it together. So teams that are losing records or that are down, they're desperate up front, right? And desperate teams are dangerous. And I love to bet desperate. I love it. I love when the team is just so counted out that they're just considered this desperate, left for dead, absolute menace of a football team. Nothing's going to go right. Pardon my dog over there. Nothing's going to go right. And what happened? They went out there, they played some inspired football, and they lost. I mean, they had a chance to win it or tie it there with a field goal at the end, but 7 points I felt was way too much. Pardon my dog. But it was it could have been one there. Thank you. Could have been won or tied at the end by everybody's favorite kicker, the Destroyer. And, people are giving him a little bit of grief, but to be fair, he went in there and he's made field goals this year. So it's not like he's been a disaster. It's not like it's a situation where he's like 3 for 9. I mean, there's a reason he's on the team. He makes long field goals, so he'll be fine. But it was a good game. Today's games are really good. That one was I enjoyed both football games thoroughly. And yes, of course, you enjoy them more when you've got action on them. But when you just sitting there and you're watching it, from a football perspective, teams are moving the ball today. I mean, there wasn't like a lot of the games have been lagging for offense. And I'm okay with defensive football. I've been watching football my whole life. I'm in my mid-40s, so I've been watching football since the 80s. And, sometimes you just have those defensive battles, but then that's when you see a different element of it, when you see the chess pieces go together. And you're seeing great defense, and that's something in the NFL we don't get a lot of. And we saw it in the game today that the offense was moving the ball effectively. There's not a lot of penalties that are really game-changing. There was in the Friday game with that false start. Got to back up on that a little bit. Man, did Birmingham get bailed out on that. But until they change that rule, you should be able to challenge a call, and the play should have been dead. So I'm kind of for it. However, going back to today's game, we saw San Antonio, Michigan was about to put them away, and they were going down the field. And Perkins had got them down into the red zone again, and he just throws a disastrous pick six. But when you're on the San Antonio side, hey, I was like, get in the end zone. He scored. That was great. But Michigan vastly improved with Perkins in there. With Danny Etling out, taking that shot, again, I'm not so sure that this is quite a drastic situation like Houston, where the quarterback change happened, and then we saw vast improvements. This was a situation where there was an injury and they just were unstoppable. He was running RPOs. He had 2 rushing touchdowns on the keeper. Just absolutely just tearing it up out there. And good for him. This is the league of opportunity, and I was just glad San Antonio covered the number. I mean, that field goal, though, man, that was a long kick. And, they're 0-3 and Memphis is 0-3, but I think that out of those two teams, I don't think that either one of these teams are rotten, but I think out of those two teams, I think Memphis might have the bigger problem because of quarterback play. So San Antonio is just like so close. So we'll see. They're going to be desperate next week. Can't wait to see the line on their game. You just never know. You never know. Which segues into our last game of the day, right? Last game of the day. Everybody's the game of the week. We've got both teams are undefeated. DC, Greg Williams, their defensive coordinator, quits midweek to take the job. I think it's Tennessee State. Don't quote me on that, but somewhere else. And that's their second major player coach, right? First it was Coach Barlow, then it's Coach Williams. He just abandoned ship. And I thought in week 1 that would be a problem. Here we are in week 3, and the defense came out and they showed up. First of all, 4 turnovers for St. Louis, right? St. Louis has the best home field advantage in the UFL. It's not even close. Fans are there. They want a football team. They feel slighted for the Rams moving back to LA. So they're a good, aggressive bunch, and I hope more UFL fans get out to the games. Just get out there, man. It can't be that expensive. It can't be. Get out, support these spring leagues. These are perfect leagues for the dry season, from the Super Bowl holds us over all the way down until the fall. And what an amazing performance by DC. I mean, the first drive, they strip sacked Manny Wilkins. I believe he threw 3 interceptions thereafter. They were getting points on conversions, but they, to his credit, finally got his first touchdown pass of the season. They didn't have a touchdown pass in the first 2 games. A lot of people don't know that because they don't see it. They don't see the big picture, and that's what I do here. I try to see the bigger scope of how you score and the bigger scope of everything. And it was a feel-good story in St. Louis, and they're 2-0, and they're whipping everybody's ass, but there's holes in this team. And then, Saylor scored week 1. He was just, balled out. And then you kind of get a reality sets in a little bit. He's still a great player, don't get me wrong, but it just felt like 7 points was too generous, especially for a team that, has gone under, they're 2-0 as well. And they've got decent quarterback play out of Jordan Thompson. They've got Abram Smith, who really can run the rock. The Saints, I'm surprised. Saints drafted him. I thought that he would make it in the NFL a little bit. I think he's a really good shifty runner. He doesn't go down on first contact. So I do think that DC's got a really solid roster, and they've got great defensive players. They've got a great defensive scheme, and they're going to be a nightmare. And they're of the three teams that I think that can win the championship. I think that right now, and this is subject to change because this is a week-to-week league, but if I were to say the three best teams are St. Louis, DC, and Birmingham right now. Those are the three teams I think can win the championship there, barring any crazy injuries. But man, DC is showing they overcome. Props to DC's fans. I know that the next home game that they have, they'll have the Deer Snake. It's a great tradition. I love it. I love seeing fans having a good time. But you know what else I love? Winning bets. And we're 8-4. I've said this over and over. We're 8-4 this year. Also dropped a little bet on the White Sox earlier. I saw the clip of Will Middlebrooks, the Boston Red Sox. Oh man, team was 7-7. Trip to Chicago is what we need. Did you see how they lost the other day? If you're a player, you have pride. And this isn't late in the season. This is the first month of the Major League Baseball season. So to say something like that, right? You got to be careful who's saying it and who they're saying it about. If you're going to say things like that, you're going to have to be so dominant that you can back it up. And the Red Sox are a 500 baseball club right now. I mean, it took almost a no-hit effort to beat the White Sox today. They had a no-hitter going in the eighth inning, and they still only won 3-1. So there's issues that, in Boston with their baseball team, but I personally am just of the belief that this is one of those situations whether, regardless of the sport, right? We can sit here and do analytics till the cows come home. But there's always variables that happen. There's injuries. There's special teams touchdowns. There's pitching changes. There's benchings. There's psychological side effects that have to be factored into sports. And what you do is you base this, you have to use your own weighted scale of overreactions and underreactions. You have to see who's really able to take this stuff. Like, for example, Tom Brady. He didn't talk a whole lot of trash. Kobe Bryant didn't talk a whole lot of trash, but those guys were elite, and you knew that they know how to respond to something like you cannot shake those people. If you're not dealing with a mentally insane person when it comes to sports, when it comes to being a quarterback or a point guard or a pitcher, whatever the hell the position is you want it to be, if you're not dealing with those elites or even a head coach like Belichick or Saban or whoever, right? And you just throwing shade at another team, you're foolish. It even says in the Bible about being foolish with your mouth. Like with this, don't do it. You're just going to motivate a team to come out there and hit you in the mouth. And the first game of the series, the White Sox, which I said at the plus, I think it was plus 132 or 130 something, they beat them by 10 runs, mercilessly, pounded them. And what do you expect? Human beings have pride. Human beings in sports are so competitive and they're so hyper-competitive, and they're looking for any kind of edge or any kind of feeling to get themselves up. If you got yourself rallied for a week and you're ready to take on the opposition, to take on an opponent, I throw those records out the window. I do. I don't care if you're – it has to be an extremely rare case to where I'm willing to write a team off when it comes to that. I looked at some of the NBA lines now and do a whole lot of NBA stuff, but I saw a line today that was 23.5. That's obscene. You're tanking or you're resting everybody, which is bad for the consumer, bad for the game. That's why the NBA is struggling. But I don't like to I love to watch a team the next week that lost in the previous week and then they're disrespected, which is an example of that was Houston this last week in the UFL. They were the ones that were just getting like popped off. And, Arlington had to stop them on a 2-point conversion to tie the game, and everybody acted like it was 50-0. Like, those are the kinds of edges that I've learned to develop over years and years of betting, over 30 years. Just understanding these psychological determinations about everything. You know what I mean? I think that the more that you watch sports and really get into them and take away I like to think of this as the first wave of emotion. Oh, he's an idiot. Oh, he dropped the ball. Oh, he did this. Oh, he did that. Blah, 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 blah. You're just hot taking it. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's the key to successful gambling. It's the key, right? Unless there's a significant injury to a significant position, forget it. You know who else? If you look at the Chicago Bears last year, they were keeping it close in games, and everybody was screaming about coaching. Even some of the players were. But if you look like on Thanksgiving, they were humongous dogs to the Lions, and I couldn't bet Chicago enough. You were giving them – it's just like it's an overreaction. It's a market overreaction, and Vegas takes advantage of you. These books are just going to ride you. And if you want to be a smarter gambler, a smarter bettor, you have to learn to control yourself. I'm also not a fan of following the sharps too much, right? It's mindful of what you're betting, right? In the NFL, it's a little different. In college football with traditional scoring, you kind of want to keep your eyes peeled on that a little bit. But when it's actual things like this or even basketball, sharps betting it heavy. Let me tell you something. Sharps lose. They don't lose a lot. They're very good bettors. But I don't just tail that, because if you just tail that, you might as well just start paying for your picks at that point. And my goal, everything that you see, is I don't charge for picks. I don't. Eventually, I hope to have this channel monetized and have something up to where you can tip me. That would be appreciated. But I'm not just going to, people may think I'm foolish for just not charging for picks. I'm not going to charge for picks. We can do a consultation and have a discussion there, and that's a little different. That's a little more intimate. Then you're taking my real time, and I can explain some things, how to make you better, but a better over the long term. Because that is the goal of this channel. I'm having fun, enjoying YouTube, enjoying posting all this stuff. However, I want everybody that follows me, I want them to win. I want them to be profitable. I want them to make all sorts of money. I don't want you guys to ever lose a bet. I'm not a fan of dunking on somebody who loses a bet, because it's extremely bad karma if you believe in such a thing. But I just don't believe in doing that. Now, if you made a bet to spite me and talk a little trash, I'm not going to feel bad for you. That's on you for, first of all, not following Justin Paul Sports channel. Well, right now on X, it's at _diamond_bets. If you're not following Diamond Bets, you're missing out. If you go on the Twitter there, you'll see all the time. Bets are up. It's the same thing I post on the channel. Sometimes I'll put a little extra there, trying to get more views. Again, this channel's in its infancy. We're growing. We're almost at 100 subs here. I've got 240 subs online. We're just going to keep growing and growing and growing. And every week after these UFL games, I have a live stream. I have you guys chime in, ask questions. We'll have a discussion. It's going to be amazing. We're going to make so much money this year. It's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous. But to close off, like I said, today's game, just an incredible performance by DC with all their coaches and all that turmoil. Incredible psychology there. Probably the strongest psychologically sound football team in the league right now is DC. Anthony Beck's at St. Louis, experienced coach. They're going to make a run. I think that very good football team. Very good football team. On the other side, I think Birmingham still is the team in the USFL division to beat. I don't see the other ones rising up to that occasion, but I do think that in the XFL division, I believe it's DC and St. Louis are going to play again. So it's just going to be a nasty semifinal match, and I can't wait. Inject it into my blood because today's games were amazing. With that being said, you guys are absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for tuning in. Tell a friend. Check my short videos every day. I put posts out almost every single day. Have fun, like, subscribe, and y'all have a great weekend. Thank you.